Oi, 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 oi. What's going on? This is not gonna be any sort of formal video, no editing or anything like that. It's just gonna be really off the dome, as far as my thoughts of how the Lakers Clipper game went. I'm gonna touch on the Jazz Pelicans, and we're gonna get into the games of Friday on our podcast, Weekly Shootaround on Apple Podcasts. No, I might leave that in the description. That's probably the only thing I'll touch as terms of editing things go. As far as initial thoughts off rip was one, uh, AD. It's good to see that the AD advantage is a real thing and it's not just something us Laker fans hope for. It actually is true that the Clippers have nobody to match up with Anthony Davis. I know they were missing Montrezl Harrell. I know they were missing Montrezl Harrell, pardon me. And I know they were missing Lou Will. But neither of those guys can guard AD one-on-one. That's just a fact of the matter. We can debate about Harrell all we want to. He can't guard AD. We saw it the last game. One of the last games before the season shut down, AD was barbecue chicken to him. If you say Zubac, I'll slap you in your face. If you say JaMychal Green, I'll slap you in your face. Kawhi, not tall enough. PG, not strong enough. So I am very glad to see that he knows that he has the advantage at all times. And I'm glad to see that we are not afraid to beat a dead horse and give it to him every time down on that mid-post area to where he can turn face and just use his speed. If they put Zubac, use his strength if they put a smaller guy. And just use his talent if Kawhi ever gets matched up on him and things of that nature. But as far as that, he got to the line, I believe, 17 times, 16 makes. And that's a promising sign, and that's something that's a trend, not just this one game sample. The other 3 times we played the Clippers, he's been great at getting to the foul line, particularly the last 2, the one that we won, and even on Christmas Day, he was very, very good. And, it's just good to see that we do have the advantage in terms of our second best player can't be guarded. And that's just really the facts. Another thing that stuck out to me off the rippy, LeBron was very, very engaged defensively, and that's a great sign. He's showing that he can still have flashes in games where he can give you a 2 to 3 to 4 minute stretch where he can put a clamp down on your team's best player. Saw it right before the restart. He took the challenge guarding Giannis. A few possessions he guarded him. Forced turnovers, air balls. Kawhi tonight, I think Kawhi hit the foam on the backboard on a shot against LeBron. Double dribbled on one that wasn't called. A couple bad misses. And then I think the 1 or 2 times he scored on Bron tonight, they were fouls. LeBron fouled him, and he got to the line, I believe. But it is good to see that despite how passive he was, and he was very passive, and I don't know if this is him just pacing himself. I don't know. Definitely don't want to draw too much from this game, obviously. I'm happy that we won as a Laker fan. I don't want to draw too much from the game because they didn't have Trez, they didn't have Lou, and who knows how this game goes if they do have those guys. But at the same token, I'm a fan through and through, so I'm going to talk my talk when we win. You understand me? But he was very passive. I didn't really love it. So that's got to change, in my opinion. Like I said, it's Bron, though. I trust that, when the games really, really matter in the playoffs, if we do meet up with them, that he'll be right. You know what I'm saying? I was also encouraged to see Kyle Kuzma play very good again against these guys. Seems to step up in big games. He's been up and down all season. There's no doubt about it. He's been a Twitter icon in the wrong reasons, you can say. But one thing I'll give him credit for is he showed great improvements over the season, and today especially, in his defensive A, intelligence, B, just his defensive ability to stay in front, and that's 3, um, the ability to hit timely 3-pointers, right? So I believe he finished with 16 points, maybe 18. I don't remember off the top of my head. Like I said, I didn't do much research. This is all kind of just off the domer. But timely threes he hit to extend a lead to 8 or cut a lead to 2, um, and keep the momentum going. He played great defense when he got switched on to Kawhi. There was a few possessions against Paul George, a little more shifty game to him. He kind of got cooked in that first quarter. There was a couple possessions when he came in. And if you run the tape back, you'll see it. He got a foul called on him one. And then the very next possession, I think Paul George just drove right by him, hit a little floaty off the glass. But for the most part, the more stagnant dudes like who rely on strength and just 1-2 quick moves, he did great on. He did good on switches against Reggie Jackson, who, by the way, is not a good NBA player anymore. And frankly, he hasn't been for like a year or two. He did a really good job on Kawhi, like I said, and it was a very good sign to see as a fan of the Lakers. A couple things that concern me before I get into like my conclusions and whatnot. One thing that surprised or that concerned me, pardon me, is the fact that we couldn't be dominant in this game. There was a stretch there. We got up 13 to end the first quarter. We're up 35-22, or maybe it was up 12, 35-23, one of those. And start of the second quarter, man, the Clippers have killed us all season. I think I did right. One of the few things I wrote down, in the 4 games we've played from them, and this is via Laker Film Room, shout out to Pete, we're minus 37 in second quarters against the Clippers. And nothing was different today. LeBron, or AD took his rest after he was dominant. And give me a second, guys. And LeBron just was kind of being passive, like I'm saying. Kawhi kind of got it going in that second quarter. I think he had 14 in the quarter. Paul George found it. And they kind of turned up the intensity a little bit, and that kind of got us. And I don't expect that to change too much because when Trez and Lou Will come back, that's their quarter. Those first 5 minutes of that quarter, they shine. And, that's one thing that we've got to address. Maybe it's not playing Dwight to start the second and wrapping around LeBron with Kuz or something, because those Dwight minutes are normally net negatives for us. It's been bad, or the Dwight and another forward lineups have been bad. So maybe it's Markieff Morris going there to start the second against the Clippers specifically. I feel like against the other teams of the West, we can run our normal rotation. I think it's an advantage a bigger advantage against other teams than it is the Clippers, where they have the guys, plural, who can match up with LeBron. So LeBron needs all the space he can get to drive when we're playing them. And the whole 2 bigs thing doesn't really work against the Clippers. As far as another concern was just a sloppy play. And this is not even a Laker thing. This might just be the first game of the bubble. And I definitely don't want to overreact, like I said. But a lot of turnovers both ways. Clippers, I think, had 26. We had 20 or something like that. A lot of turnovers and a lot of fouls, man. The refs were really bad both ways. No doubt about it. They miss a lot of calls. Paul George at the end, it's debatable. It's LeBron, so you're not going to get that probably Paul George. Tough, but you're Paul George. He's LeBron. It's levels. I don't know what you want from me. Other things I can think of that concern me was the lack of awareness Frank Vogel had in terms of seeing that Dwight Howard's minutes were bad. And it's not his fault. He's trying hard and he's playing hard and communicating and He's a big energy ball, but some matchups just aren't your matchups, you know. He does great against teams like Denver where he can bang down there with Jokic and grab offensive boards, and teams like Utah where Gobert has to run and chase him on high ball screens and he's rolling hard to the rim. And teams like that, you know. But as far as the Clippers go, he has a hard time in those pick and rolls. And if he's not grabbing a high offensive rebound rate, he's really out there just getting scored on, and it's tough to play him, you know. It's not a knock at him. It's just sometimes it's not your night to get minutes, you know. So I would like Frank Vogel's, I guess, awareness to be a little higher in that. That's just me, you know, as a basketball connoisseur. I love all the ins and outs of the game. I love the Lakers, so I want us to win by all means necessary, but I definitely understand. It's just the first game of the bubble, you know, normal rotations, and we'll go from there. I also did like just how highly competitive this game was. LeBron and AD both played 34 minutes. Kawhi and Paul George both played 34. You know, I'm just hearing stuff about AD maybe not playing much, you know. But it was good to see that he wanted it. It was good to see that he cared. Like, this was a real game. You know, there was trash talk back and forth with the LeBron, Kawhi. He's on my hand. And Kawhi's like, nah, all ball. I love that. I love LeBron taking the challenge of clamping him in multiple possessions. And I think the reason for that, and, you know, I don't want to talk all my points away for the podcast tomorrow, but I believe a guy like Kawhi who's scoring, obviously I don't want to diminish him, but most of his scoring is resulted on the fact that he is physically stronger than most guarding him, right? You see that when KCP gets switched on to him, he just turns his back to him. However many dribbles he wants to take, and then turns over his right shoulder, or turns over his left shoulder and shoots the fader. He can get all the way to the rim on those guys. But when you see guys like Kuz and LeBron and AD on him, he can't really bully his way to getting that mid-range pull-up off or getting that turnaround J. And, you know, LeBron definitely gives him problems in the sense that laterally, Kawhi is not the quickest, you know, and his game is very herky-jerky, or not herky-jerky, but very stagnant in terms of just, it's a one move and go, or one move, counter move and go, and it's just mainly strength, shoulders, and things of that nature. So when you put someone like Braun or AD on him, who he can't just put his shoulder into and step back, makes it a little harder for him to score. Doesn't have great lift on his jumper, which makes a lot of his shots short, as you saw tonight. I didn't think he shot a good percentage. He got to the line quite a bit, which he's going to do. But as far as the individual defense on him, it was very good. So that was encouraging. But yeah, man, I just don't want to make too much of the first game back. Of course, they didn't have two of their top 4 scorers. But Lakeshow dub, hat fresh out the box, you understand me? If you guys made it to this point of the video, appreciate it. I just in here rambling or whatnot. Things I'm looking forward to for the Lakers to see going forward. I'm definitely looking forward to see them try and work out those lineups against certain teams. Incorporating Dion Waiters alongside LeBron a little more. I didn't think he played bad alongside LeBron. He definitely did good when LeBron was off. And just keeping the confidence and morale high within the team. You know, it's a tough first game for the bigs, JaVale, Dwight, as far as playing time and as far as production. But at the same token, like, you know, that's just kind of how it's going to be against certain teams. Houston's another team. Dallas even. It's going to be hard for them to play meaningful minutes because of how those 3 teams like to operate and how they like to spread you out. Clippers, obviously, you know, their 2 best players are great in pick and roll. So, you know, obviously not a very professional video. Don't care. It was more just off the top of the head. About 15 minutes long, I think. I'm going to let y'all go. Thumbs up if you liked the video. I definitely will be back on my professional tip soon. But I just wanted to share my excitement with the Laker fandom out there and whatnot. Oi, oi. Um, Appreciate you guys if you made it this far. Check out for the podcast. It'll probably drop Saturday or Friday night, depending. But we'll get a little more in depth on there. And whenever that comes out, that is the Weekly Shoot Around on Apple Podcasts. Thank you guys so much. Salute.